happen. And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wow Wednesday. Yay, everybody shouts. Really. Maruxa, what would you rather experience? Oh, it's hump day. I just can't wait for the weekend. Right?
You're so right. You're so right, Nancy. I think it's so, I love when you told me the name of your Wednesday pick me up. Wow, Wednesday. What did I keep saying? I was like, wow, wow. And I was like, oh gosh, sorry.
It's and one of the most beautiful things, and you're contributing to this as well, is every single week our guests bring amazing resources and tools for our audience to live their best life, have their best businesses, and thrive. And then after the calls, we go, "Wow, that was so amazing!" I'm like,
Ah, so fun.
yeah.
It's all about, at least for me, I believe in co-rising, really bringing each other up. And that's what I see that you and your sisters are doing here and your team is doing here at the Women's Prosperity Network. So it's so fun to be a part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And I am so grateful to you for being with us today. And let me go ahead and welcome everyone who's here. We are here live on Facebook in our community, Women's Prosperity Network. We're live on Zoom. We're live on the telephone, here to bring you your midweek boost of motivation, education, and inspiration. And today's conversation with my guest, Maruxa Murphy, is all about building community. Now, how beautiful is it that we're a community talking about building community? As a matter of fact, in our coaching program, which is called Momentum, the topic we've been focusing on these past 2 weeks is all about how do you create and build a tribe that amplifies your impact and one that you feel really good about. And we've taught that a few times now. And Maruxa, when you and I were talking, we're in a mastermind together, and we've been working together for a couple of months, growing our communities. And let me just let that cat out of the bag. And right now, since working with Maruxa and following her systems, our Facebook community grew by close to 3,000 new people. And that's just been in a couple of months. Like, what? 3,000?
Yes, wow.
And as a result, we've got new members that have joined our network, and some have come into our coaching program. So it's all about building relationships. So let me go ahead and, Maruxa, I could read your bio, but I'm inspired to simply speak from the heart. So I met Maruxa a few months ago through our mutual friend, Mark Porteous, and she's got massive experience in business, in growing communities, and she'll tell us some of the stories and the results that she's obtained, both for herself and for some clients. She also is the owner of a coffee company called Perky Coffee, which is so amazing. I haven't ordered it yet, and I'm looking forward to getting myself some. She's a mom. She lives in Orlando. She is absolutely delightful on all fronts. So join me, give us a virtual warm welcome to Maruxa Murphy. Welcome, Maruxa.
Hello, Nancy. Hello, everybody. It is super wonderful to start my Wednesday with you, every single one of you. And I'm just so glad to be here today. Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. And let's talk a little bit about your background. Like, how did you become the
Sure.
community maven and have this niche carved out?
Gosh, it's a funny story, but I always start at birth. Who knew that I was going to be born into a massive, massive family? My mom is one of 11 children, and my father is one of 6 children. And my mother is multiracial. She is Puerto Rican, Jamaican, Chinese, and Filipino, literally a quarter each of those. And my father's from Spain, and they met, they had, 4 children. So I'm not from a small family experience at all. Now, that then taught me that, oh my gosh, that everyone's always up in our business. There is no room for privacy. Well, I've learned how to do that over the years, but having such a big family experience meant that there's always someone on the lookout for you. There's always a a place to call home, because there's many homes that could be part of your home. And it was a family that truly felt safe to be in. I was empowered by my family. And so I think, nothing of it, because that's just the way my life was. I go off to college in, the 90s, and I realized very quickly that actually that is not the case. Most families were not designed or are in the same, they don't do life the same way that we did. And there was for me, a massive shift in that. And I started to see that, I'll never forget my grandmother coming in to our house and seeing one of my friends who, most people, they had the tattoos, they had the earrings, they had all, and she just looked over at that person and said, wow, tell me the story about your tattoos. Tell me the story about instead of being like, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this. And I remember that moment clearly, because it was a moment of non-judgment where it could have been highly judgmental, and primarily because of the way in which I knew she grew up in her home. And so the long and the short of it, Nancy, is it really did start at birth, but I had this sense within me as well that really, when I got to college and beyond, that's been now like 20 something years, that really life is better when it's done with people. And when it's done from a place of being able to see the person on the other side, or the person that you're face to face with, or the other side of Zoom these days, and see them for their humanity. Because that person on the other side has a heartbeat. The person on the other side has curiosities and adventures still to be had, and visions for their life and dreams. And we might look different, but what if we could hear them in the midst of that? So that really, honestly, was a big part of my journey and my start. And then I learned how to bridge that into my career. And so I was actually go ahead.
Let me pause for a moment, because
Yeah.
Well, first of all, no wonder we are so aligned, because you are speaking with one philosophy, treating every person, seeing every person. And when you were talking about how you grew up in your family and that feeling of safety, that you were taken care of. Yeah. So maybe they're looking at your business a little too much, but that's okay. Being taken care of. And really,
it's true. It's so true.
It's okay. And if we look at part of the reason that online communities, in-person communities in general are so important, is let's look at that basic need that was filled by your family that you then saw so many people didn't have.
Correct.
So it's incumbent upon us as the leaders creating communities to develop that space for people to feel safe, to feel a sense of belonging.
Yes. So good. Yes, exactly, Nancy.
First takeaway, everybody, from her teaching, by the way.
And yes, well, and that's what I was going to say. It's like, really, I think a lot of us, when we start thinking about, okay, how can I create that, an additional 5 figures into my business, an additional 6 figures into my business, an additional potentially 7 figures into my business. And, oh, there's this thing called Facebook groups, and oh, there's this thing called, or whatever community online. We got to remember exactly what you just said. We can start there, but that's oftentimes the premature experience. Like, that's premature. We don't need to just click on create group and just run. That's what most of us do, because that's what we're told to do. But I want us to do something that often feels so uncomfortable for us, and it's to slow down to grow fast. And in that slow down, in this front end, it's really spending time really looking at, number one, your values. What values are you going to be bringing to the community? What is your vision for your community? Like, what do you want this community to actually do in service to the people that you're serving? What do you want this community to do in service to the company that you're building? What do you want this community to do to create impact in the world, right? And when you have that, plus then you get really clear on the voice. Who is it that I want to show up to be? And that's where bravery comes in, right? That's where you're like, you standing in that adventure called building a community really gets to thrive and show up. And then finally partnering that with what I call your value. your offers. What are the things that you're bringing to your community to serve them in a way that helps profitability grow, but also feels so aligned with everything that you are and that you're building as part of your company. And so, I love for us to slow down to grow fast. And it always starts with those 4 V's: your voice, your vision, your values, and your value, your offer. Right.
Yeah, I was taking writing
yes.
it down. I was like, oh, this is good. And, so yummy. So share with our audience some of the experiences you've had in building communities, some of the things that have really created amplified results.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the communities so I've built over 100 online communities, custom designed. So a lot of times people call me a community architect, a community maven. I look and see what those 4 B's are in a business, and then I really overlay that with like a profit path for them that has been proven, that I've done over and over again. But in those 100 plus companies, one of them, for example, was this community of moms in Austin, Texas. I used to live in Austin, Texas, and thought I'd raise my children there. So I created this community. It's now 6 years later, it's now 17,000 women large, all built organically. We've never used one single paid ad to develop that. And it honestly was the community that Facebook, the company, took notice of because of the engagement being so high in there, that they reached out to me and they said, we are, and as I was mentioning before we started the actual training, they said, Mark Zuckerberg sees that communities are the future, at least for the next 15 years. Okay, I think that's really important to note. And so we're going to be investing heavily on this infrastructure for the brand, and you're doing something really, really well, Maruxa. Would you be willing to kind of invent with us and innovate something new? And I said, okay, interesting. So we actually built an offline, in-person block party in the streets of Austin, Texas, their first one ever. And then I helped them develop out this offline face-to-face / online experience that we still are in touch with since then. And so that's, that in essence, that's one of my clients. Is helping Facebook make decisions on their development of their communities, but also having built out the Austin Moms Network, which now has resources for moms. If a mom's partner leaves, for example, or just walks out of their life, we have a whole process and a whole system in there to make sure that mother gets food and potentially money to pay her bills. We have systems like that in that community, and that's one of my favorite ones. I've also, please.
So, because today is about how to grow and monetize. So,
yes,
Austin Moms Network, which is wonderful. Yes. I'm wondering where's the monetization in that? Can you share?
Great. Yes. So that was a model. So as I've mentioned to you, but to let everybody know, I have 5 different profit paths of creating communities. The Austin Moms Network in and of itself is called an endorsed community. It is an influencer community. So we have numbers. We have the bigger numbers, but we don't have any of our own products. So if you're finding yourself right now in that place where you don't have necessarily your own products, but you have really great products that you want to promote and serve others, an endorsed community could be that type of community. So for us, how we do that is referrals with partners in town. So the local grocery chain, right? We have a referral experience there, and then we also have, and we're playing right now with having club cards. So if you're part of the network, you could get a deal card that invites you to have different discounts and gifts from the local community, and so local community members pay into that, and then also Austin Mom Network members also pay a fee to have access to that. So that's one part of our model as well.
And I think that's a profit path not many people think about. So when you grow these huge groups, brands and companies will pay you money to endorse and recommend their products and services. So
correct.
Not always that you have to create something to sell, create the space. Like I even think about Clubhouse, for example, because Clubhouse is a brand
Right.
new community that started up. And for a while, I'm like, well, how are they monetizing? Because everything was free, free, free. Facebook started
Right.
as free, free, free. First, you build the community, then the dollars come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. So for some, now that's not always the case. Some of us right now need the cash,
Yes.
right? And so there are different models depending on what it is that how you're wanting to develop. And again, it goes back to that vision, right? So part of your vision has to be really getting you clear on, okay, maybe it is, I need more cash flow. Like
Mhm.
cash flow is really important. Well, then we don't want you to use one of the models that really is about really building that relationship over time because you need cash flow, right? An Excite model might be a better fit for somebody who's needing that cash flow experience. So for example, I'll explain a little bit of what an Excite model looks like. An Excite is what I call our small but mighty win communities. This might be giving someone a trial or giving somebody an opportunity to do a challenge with you. So for example, if you're in weight loss and you wanted to invite people into like a 5-day detox or 7-day detox challenge, they get at the end of that experience a small but mighty win. They feel better, they have more clarity, and they maybe have even lost a little bit of weight. And now they also know your style, your coaching experience, how you like to bring your groups together, how you like to work with them, so that when you make an offer on the back end within that 7-day period, it's much more easily received than having it just be like, hey, I'm over here. Who wants to work with me? Who wants to work with me? Raising hands left and right. You're like, please just say yes. Please just say yes. Which is, hopefully none of us are actually doing that, right? But the truth is that we feel that way inside sometimes.
It does, yeah.
And yeah. And so what if we build a model around you and your community that helps you really stand in the excellence that you bring to the world,
Mm.
right? So that's an Excite model, for example. And
So
then we have,
model, let me
yes,
summarize, right? So the Excite
yes,
model is building a community based upon the value you deliver and the vision, the voice, and all of those pieces. And it's
right,
really about getting them engaged in some process with you. Would that be fair to say?
right, correct, exactly. So I like to think of it as like a sliver of your bigger product or offering. So Women's Prosperity Network, we do a dollar trial.
Yeah.
And then you take us through the experience. In some ways, if we had a community that was a part of that or a challenge, then that would be an Excite model community. Sometimes I've had clients that have software or so software as a service, that want to give a trial offer of 7 days, for example. And in that 7 days, they have a community that goes alongside them to basically onboard them, right? Every day, there's a video that pops in and says, okay, you joined, and we're so happy you're here. So on day 1 of your 7-day trial, try this. Okay, now day 2, try this.
Ooh,
And they have a Facebook community.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
My little
Yeah.
wheels are spinning. Oh, I could do this with this client. We could do.
Yes, exactly. So that is that, and I like sharing those examples because it's just a matter of being innovative, bringing innovation in, but understanding that the business model behind it is solid because, well, I've had a lot of clients going through it. So I've been able to track, okay, these are ones I definitely would recommend versus these ones, because out of the 100+ communities, some of them were duds. I mean, we have to just claim that too. But the growth and the learning that I gained from those were amazing. But the truth is that when I looked last summer, I actually did this whole experience where I spent 2 weeks identifying and labeling and looking at every single one of those 100+ communities I had designed and really going through each of them and saying, okay, well, what worked? What didn't work? Took everything in the what didn't work, put it in the wisdom pile, and what would I do differently? And then from the things that did work, we really then built out those 5 proven profit paths to really help us identify and help my clients identify which path to go with when they have the core vision in place, right? So yeah, so that is a little bit of how I've come to those 5 proven profit paths. But there are others, there's three others, right? So we just spoke a little bit about the endorse. We spoke about the excite. There's one called the engage. The engage profit path is what I would say is your community on Facebook. You have an engaged profit path. And I have an engaged profit path with my Facebook group as well, Grow and Monetize Your Groups. And what it is, it's really a group that's based around an interest. And in your case here, the Women's Prosperity Network, and bringing women together and rising and inspiring one another and educating one another in their business, right? And so we are here for that reason. We have that common interest. We're women who are building businesses, and we want to talk about that, right? So these engaged communities are ones that are longer term builds. These are long relationship experiences where we're in this group together to support each other, answer questions, get feedback, support each other in services if it feels aligned and if that's allowed within the group. And in all of that, we're developing a relationship over time around this interest base that we have.
Let me ask this question, because the term engagement is such a hot button these days.
Right.
How do I get engagement? So right now we're talking about an engaged community that it builds over time. And one of the things that we all want is to be able to not only attract people to our communities, but actually help them stay and participate and be involved. And I think that goes with no matter what type of community you're building, you want people to stay.
Absolutely. Yes.
So can you drop in under this segment? I know that you're going to more about the other two profit paths. What are some of the ways that we can keep people engaged? Because it feels like there's a lot going on out there. So how do we do that?
Yes. I love this question. I love this question because you're 100% right. So in an engaged community, it's because you're engaging it into a conversation around interest, and you absolutely have to have engagement is the number one thing. It's the reason people want to stay. So a couple massive tips here for everybody here. Number one, remember the content, if you're posting content in your groups and it's all about you, that's why there's not a lot of engagement, right? Why? Because people want to know what's in it for them. They're wanting to tune into that radio dial on the FM radio. It's WIIFM. What's in it for me? And so we have to remember that if our content is not being delivered in a way that they can receive and see how they are a part of that, they tune out, right? So I want us to all, like, homework assignment for today is to really take a look at your last 15 days of content, right? Is it about you and your accolades? Is it about why you did this and how you did that? Or is it about the person that you're serving? Can you take that same content and shift it slightly so that it is about and thinking about them and their humanity and through the heartbeat that they have, and thinking about, what is it that they care so massively about, or what pain are they in right now that this helps solve for them? So when we come from that perspective, it shifts the dynamic because now they want to lean in further, right?
I want to add on that, because what that sparked for me was, even if you were to write a post and you want to give a tip or a suggestion based upon your expertise, would it be like even shifting it to write your content or do your video and add in, I'm not sure who's watching right now or who's reading this right now, but my hope is that it makes a difference for you.
Yes.
Like just putting that into the why you're sharing it. It's like, I'm not sharing it so that I can, stand on my soapbox. I'm sharing it so it makes a difference for someone. It could be that simple, right?
Yes, that's brilliant. Brilliant, Nancy. Yes, and it is that simple, really. And honestly, even saying something like that helps you ground your content, right? To me at least, it does. Like if I say that out loud, say, I don't know who's watching, but I hope this is supportive for you today. Or I hope this brings you value. Tell me what kind of value this brings to you today. And that grounds me to be able to connect on a level that's not here, right? Oftentimes when we get into content world, we stay up here in our head. And that's a big part of why we miss out on the ability to build that relationship. We really need to come into our content, our Facebook Lives, our speaking from here, from our heart. And when we do that, shift.
It shifts. I got little goosebumps from like that golden nugget should help everybody today. So if that made a difference for you, tell us down below in the comments.
Yes.
Just taught us, because that was the other thing that you snuck in there. Is so tell me if this how this brought value for you. Like that's how you get engagement. Like if it's all just a one megaphone, that's not engagement. That's preaching.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the next point I would love to bring in is really invite them to be a part of the story. So it's things like, tell me in the comments below, how is this? Or does anybody else agree? Type in yes, give them a directive. So a lot of times and I've tested this many, many times, I'll say, tell me what's your biggest, put in the comments right now, what is your biggest struggle that you're dealing with right now? Well, how many of us are going to be like, hold on, let me think for 5 minutes and then write? You're going to be like, and we almost have this moment of like deer in the headlights, like, I don't know what to write. And we kind of all go through that in our own way.
And do I really want to self-disclose in this?
Am I ready to self-disclose?
Right.
Yeah, right. So that is a really big thing, Nancy. And so you can give them more directives like, hey, does this mesh with you? Does this align with you? When I say this, how does that, is that making you feel a little bit of anxiety? Type yes or no. Yes, it does. Or how many would want the results of, creating XYZ, right? Type in yes if you're interested in that. Yes. And then, so what happens from the Facebook algorithm side of the conversation is that Facebook is seeing, oh my gosh, well, wow, there's a lot of engagement on this thread or on this Facebook Live. People are saying yes. There must be something to this group. If people want to be a part of it. So I call it tickling the Facebook algorithm. And it's just it's giving you that like little mini boosts to Facebook saying, we're really trying to get active here. Help us out, Facebook. Facebook doesn't want to promote groups that are inactive, right? They want to promote groups that are engaged. And so even just a quick yeses or I'm interested, that helps boost it.
So second golden nugget here on creating engagement. So first, make sure you make it about them, find a way to engage them and make it easy for them.
Yes.
That was huge.
Yes.
Make it easy for them. Ask a simple question that they can reply yes or no to. And that's your engagement. But if, like you said, if I'm sitting there, I'm waiting at a traffic light maybe, or I'm sitting at the doctor's office and I'm scrolling and I see this and I want to type something, but then they can't, right? There's not enough time to think about it. Yeah, really.
Right. And we're all so busy, right? Like, so we're running 500 things at the same time, probably with kids in the back seat. If you're like me with my 3 daughters under the age of 12 and under, like I'm running around. I don't have time to listen to a full live oftentimes, nor, put in the chat like a whole message. So remember who your audience is. And also that, and I think that's irregardless of demographic, we're all as a world just overly busy. So make it easy for them to respond. Awesome. Okay, so my third tip on engagement, and this is actually one of my favorites. If anybody here, actually, I'll ask in the chat, if you're here with us, and you can, feel free to share that, whether or not content feels really hard for you, right? Does content feel like a thing?
Yeah.
Is this creating content feel like a thing, or does it feel easy, right? Does it feel hard or does it feel easy?
Yeah, let's see what we get. Christina says, yes, it feels hard. So yeah, let us know in the chat. If you're on Facebook and you want to share, you can go ahead and do that. It's like, what do I write about? And, you sit there, okay, I'm going to post on social media. I made a commitment. Every day I'm going to do it. Well, what do I write about?
Exactly. Exactly. And so here's the thing, here's the tricky thing about this, right? Is that Facebook, again, is paying attention to how much content is being produced in the group. That is a part of how your algorithms start to rise as well and start to create even more engagement with the folks in your group. So it's going to be really important. If it feels like it's a thing, I have a free gift, which I'll share with you in a little while. But I also have a strategy to create consistent content for you. And I'd love to share that because I want each of our groups to really become thriving communities. And so this is a model that I created because I myself was getting stuck. I would be like all inspired, every month, every morning. I was sharing with Nancy, I'd never usually take meetings in the morning because it's my time to wake up, but it is also my time to write. I love writing. And so for a long time, I was like, I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to wake up 30 minutes and I'm going to put the post, whatever that post is going to be. But then a kid gets sick. There's that random meeting that, pops in that you can't miss, or you don't feel great, or you want to just sleep in. There's things that life shows up, and
inspiration. What am I going to write?
Lack of, exactly. And then there's that, lack of inspiration on top of all the regular life things. So one of the things I did to support myself was to create this process. It's a 10-day content process called the Win-Win-Wink. And what it is it really...
I didn't know you were going to give that to them because that's what I paid a lot of money for in community. So thank you. I love the win-win-win.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that has really helped us grow recently. So thank you for giving that to our community. All right, go.
Yes. Okay. So, and I'll just do it real quick because I know we have a lot more we want to cover, but the truth is Win-Win-Wink is a 10-day process. And each of the letters in win, win, or wink is part of an acronym that stands for a type of post. So you have W posts. W posts are what I call wisdom posts. These are your posts where you really want to invite your community to get to know you as the expert, or your company as like the brand, the leader in your brand, around the topic that you're an expert at, right? So in my case, I could do a post right now on creating content. How do you create content so it doesn't feel hard? And this would right now in this little segment could be one of my wisdom posts. You can post these in any format that feels aligned for you. So it could be written, it could be a video, it could be Facebook Lives, it could be a podcast, it could be a blog post, but you want to bring it in as content in this group so you can repurpose your content for your wisdom posts. Your I posts, in the Win-Win-Wink is interconnect. These are posts that really help your community align and connect back to you as a person. Remember, I am about heartbeats and humanity. And what I found is when we focus on the heartbeat of the person, of your heartbeat, plus the heartbeat of the person you're serving, and build that connection with one another, that's magic. That's absolute magic. And that, profits really start to show up in a much more authentically genuine and fervent way. And I say that very intentionally because, how many of us have made like, oh yeah, I can buy that thing. Okay, I'll just put some money on, and I'll put it on the thing. But it doesn't feel like you're loyal to that. There's a sense of when we give ourselves full permission and are brave enough to be fully ourselves in our communities and in our leadership as entrepreneurs and bring that to the table. Wow, there's life there. So these interconnect posts are opportunities for you to create that connection with the person that you're serving. So I'll give you an example. One of them was sharing when I stepped on a stage for the first time, the nerves that I felt, how I really had to take in some major breaths and figure out like how to do this, because I had a lot of my own baggage, internal baggage on what it was like to step on a stage and speak on something that really meant a lot to me.
So the interconnect is sharing the common feelings and experiences that your community has that you also have. It's about being a little vulnerable even.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Correct.
Got it.
So it's giving that vulnerability. Another example, around, so I'm in Florida. So Florida started opening up pretty early. So my husband Dennis and I went on our first date I took a picture of us and I put it on in our group and I said, you guys, while I love you, I needed to go out with this handsome man right now. And this is our first, sharing, this is our first date for the, in over 9 months. And it feels so good to be out. We had like 54 likes, like within like an hour or two, right? Like it was like, love, comment, like all these comments. Heartbeat. It was that connection again, heartbeat to heartbeat, right? So those are where your interconnect posts are. Then you have your nudge posts. Now, remember, as I've been sharing, you have to create engagement. Nudge posts are inviting your community to also share their voice. So oftentimes we all want our community to be the ones posting in the group and asking that question, raising their hand. But how many of us, when we see a group that isn't yet, or maybe it's our own groups that haven't yet had a lot of people raising their hand and asking their own questions and giving their own feedback or putting their own input in their own posts in the group, we're like, oh, goodness, it's not working. Well, nudge posts are a beautiful way to help people get, let me tell you, it's because people are not yet comfortable to share their voice there yet, right? They don't know that it's okay to. And that, to be honest, takes a long time for people to know that this is a safe place. Typically, it takes quite some time, and that you're having to seed that over time.
And that goes back to how we started our conversation today. You were born in a family that, safety and trust, especially today, especially online, takes time.
Yes, exactly. Remind me to share the Sacred Four in a little bit, because I think that this will be a part of this conversation too.
Awesome.
But nudge posts really invite them to be part of to be the expert. And it could be like anything. I mean, really, it could be like one recently I said is, what is the social media platform that you just don't get? And so I'm hearing Snapchat, Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these platforms that we don't get it. But it's giving them opportunity to have that voice, right? It could also be like, hey, share your Instagram handle. Let's do a share for share type of thing. So you can add, those are simple, they're so basic, right? They're not like super connected to your business and what you're doing, but you're inviting them to be a part of the conversation. That's step one of creating the next level of engagement, where they're developing out further their own content in your group.
And I think from a psychological perspective, as an entrepreneur, you start this Facebook group and I'm going to have this awesome community and they're going to buy all my stuff and they're going to be ready to do la la la. But without this nurturing sequence, you won't get the results on the back end. It's kind of like how many, I'm going to say it, how many dates do you go on before you have sex with a person? It's really the same.
Sure.
So
yes, exactly.
You need to take that time to nurture, and this ties to maintaining a mindset of ease and flow as an entrepreneur, which we'll do in a follow-up session. Let's stay on because it's all connected.
It's all connected. You're absolutely right on. So then the wisdom,
interconnect, nudge, next.
And then our final type of post is our what we call our K posts. These are our keep going posts, okay? And you notice two things about the Ks. One is basically it only comes once every 10 days, okay? So if you look at it from percentage of posts, it's literally 10% of your posts, not a must, nothing more, okay? Keep going posts are your sales posts, or your direct to an offer post, or a direct to opt-in post, or those types of things. Now, it's really important to pay attention to that, because you think about it, right? A lot of times the reason our groups are not succeeding is because we put so many of these into our group. Yeah. Hey, check out this podcast. Hey, opt in for this thing. Hey, then buy my thing. And then, hey, and people are like, wait, wow, are we just here to be pitched? Like, what's going on over here, right? And we forget that when we create our own groups, right? Sometimes we feel that way when we're in someone else's group and we're like, oh, it's not. But then we do our own and we're like, oh, wait, I'm doing the same thing. And so there's no judgment other than I would really encourage. I mean, well, I guess there is a judgment. Their judgment is like, is that it's really like, it's not inviting people to be a part of your community, right? So community, again, let's go back to like what community is. And actually, we didn't really talk about this much, but community to me is an opportunity to be in space and in time, either in person, face to face, or in a virtual setting, that allows people who have a similar interest to be together and be in conversation with one another. Otherwise, it's just an audience, right? An audience can be built, and that's more one-way conversation. So when we're thinking through our K posts, we use them very sparingly because the point of our community is to build relationships. So that, so that when you're ready for that next step, you already have such built-in trust, know, like, and trust with those individuals that are ready for that next step, that they can't help but want to. And your conversions to sales are so much higher at that point.
I love it. All right. So I'm going to bring you back to the 4 strategies, I think that was, but I'm not going to go there yet because I want to do a couple of quick things. So one of the questions that we just had, so win, win, wink. So there's so that wisdom, interconnect, nudge. You repeat that 3 times, then you add in the keep, which is your invitation.
You got it. Yep.
Question. So we got that. I'm going to go through some of the other questions in a moment. We'll be opening up as well. So you can put your question in the chat and the Q&A, hit *6 on your phone, put it in Facebook. We are here to be of service to you. Go ahead and share those strategies.
Okay. So the sacred 4, this is actually foundational. So, we talked about some foundational pieces already. We talked about the vision, we talked about the values, we talked about your voice and your value, your offers. The other part of having that foundation is really aligning your community to what I call the sacred 4. The sacred 4 is what helps people feel like they're in that family that they've chosen, that they're in that family that they're so excited to be a part of. And that really is the intention of creating community, is to create that space, whether it's a paid space or a free space, it's your choice, or multiple communities, that's your choice. But creating that space is key, and is really, these 4 are the only ways to get to that. Okay.
Right,
so the first, okay. So the first of the 4 ways is to invite everybody to a space of safety, right? To feel safe. Everybody wants to feel safe. If we don't feel safe, we hide, we hold back. And that doesn't ever help to create a genuinely powerful and beautiful community. The next thing is to feel seen, right? So little things like you inviting everybody to unmute themselves, and you invited the first person, I wrote her name here, Shannon, right? With the Gifted Travel Network, right? You're like, Shannon, how are you? Having that moment where you can help someone feel seen is everything. How many of us want to feel seen?
We do.
Right? I know I do. We do. And it's just a part of us as humans. And so we tap into recognizing simple things like saying a person's name, helping know how to pronounce the name. I have one of those hard names, so I pay attention to that. Right? Those are really important. And helping people feel really seen in your space. The third thing is to feel heard. To feel heard. So what does that look like? How do you do that? A couple of things is to invite people to share their thoughts. What is your feedback? What are your questions? Hey, did you like that or no? And if you didn't like that, do you feel safe enough to tell me about that? Because I want you to. And how can we improve this? How can we make this a better experience, right? There's a lot there, but that's it. And then the fourth one is to feel honored and respected. So in this world where every single one of us, we might look the same or we might not, we are all very different from one another, right? All very different. And in those differences, can we honor those differences? Can we respect each other in the midst of difference to hold a container where we can learn from each other, where we can be the change that we wish to see in the world,
I do.
And what would that look like? What would that look like if we created communities that really felt aligned with that? Now, they're not easy all the time. It's not something that, we're human. We're all human. We're going to all make mistakes in this. But if we can keep those as our sacred 4s, almost like our habit somewhere in your house or in your room or wherever you're working, your guiding principles. Thank you. Still, I need more coffee in the mornings, I told you. But your guiding principles as a way to really align your steps in building out your community and your business in general. What would that look like? in bringing in, how could you imagine that those sacred four would then be able to really raise that community to a whole new level?
This is also juicy, and I know that we're going to have more questions. I'm going to repeat, I'm going to look on the Facebook a little bit. And you have put together a gift for our community to support them in creating that content.
Yes.
So while I start typing and connecting and engaging so people can be seen and heard, share
Yes.
what the gift is, please.
Sure. I'd love to do that. So, I just mentioned the win-win-wink model, and so one of the questions that often comes is like, Maruxa, that's really great. I am really, really glad to have like a system now that helps me understand, how to write consistent content. But Maruxa, I still have the question, what content should I be writing? Like, I'm still kind of feeling stuck. So actually what we did is my team and I created a 300 plus content prompts document and training, so that you literally have technically 2 years worth of content prompts under each of those, the win-win-wink process. So you have like 4 pages, I think it's 3 pages of W posts, 3 pages of I post, interconnect posts, wisdom posts. So you have about over 300 total. And so we're about to start selling this. My team is like, this is way too valuable. We need to sell this. But right now it's not for sale yet. It's still available as a gift. So I wanted to get it into all of your hands. So you can find it at createsellimpact.com/WPN, WPN for Women's Prosperity Network. So createsellimpact.com/WPN, and you'll get access to the 300 content prompts that aligns with the win-win-wink, and a training that aligns with the win-win-wink, so that you know how to utilize these content prompts effectively for your business.
Beautiful. Thank you. So everybody.
You're welcome.
Oh, and I ordered mine this morning. I can't wait to start diving into it too. So go to createsellimpact.com/WPN, and you'll get this for free. And listen, you have a purpose, you have an impact that you're here to make, and it happens through creating communities. I love the quote by, I believe it's John Maxwell. He says, if you think you're a leader and no one's following you, you're just going for a walk. Right. So we need to have people. Life is about people and engagement and connection, and you're here to serve a very unique purpose. So go grab that. Let me see if I can check in on questions. So if you would like to ask a question, hit *6 on your phone or raise your hand, and then we can go ahead and serve you. Here's my beautiful Roz is in the house. Thank you, Roz, for being with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Sister Murphy. You are my sister of power words. You are loved, appreciated, celebrated, valued, and most cherished. I love that. Safe, seen, heard, and honor. You've got to do that in t-shirts. So I'm just put it out there. You need to create t-shirts.
I love
a little
that.
bit of script. That is awesome. I never like to say that someone comes into the room late, but they come right on time. And I came in when you were talking about relationships, and Nancy and the team know that I am a relational girl. I love it. So I appreciate it. I've already ordered my blessed gift. Thank you so much, and looking forward to hanging out in the world with you to share and teach folks to be safe, seen, heard, and honored. So thank you so much, and you have a great day.
Thank you so much, Roz. It's so nice to meet you, and I look forward to getting to know you even more. Very much so. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Nancy.
You are most welcome, my dear. Thank you for being with us, catching some notes for us in the chat. I appreciate you greatly. All right, beautiful. Let's go. If you have a question that you would like to ask, all you need to do is hit *6. I think Deborah Morrison, do you have a question?
I do. I wondered, in terms of my group, which has to do with finances, it feels to me quite natural that people would not feel comfortable divulging a lot of specifics because it's their money, and they perhaps feel that it's private information, and I appreciate that. So when we're dealing with anything that involves emotion, privacy, shame, and just people, asking questions, and then someone else may feel that that's a stupid question and so forth. There's a lot of vulnerability in sharing, and I'm asking how to particularly pierce that neither perceived or real barrier about people sharing. Mm-hmm. I understand that if you fostered a group mentality, there's probably a much better probability that people will be vulnerable. But just talk a little bit about, we're not talking about how to make, a good cupcake here. We're talking about feelings, right, or shameful, perhaps, past experiences about their finances. People will talk about their colonoscopy and not their finances. So tell me how I can win on that.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a culture. I was brought up, when it comes to money, don't tell anybody how much money you have. Don't tell them how much money you make. Like, there's all of that you're also dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Deb, I love this question. It's one of my favorites because I believe that that money needs to be talked about, right? Because there's been that stigma for so many of us that has stopped us, especially as women, from really rising into our possibility financially. So thank you for bringing that in. So that being said, I think a lot of it has to do, number one, going back into what is the vision for the group, right? So the vision is to really invite them to be vulnerable and share, then going in and aligning how the group is intentionally designed so that shares can happen. So number one, it's vision, right? And planting that seed from the beginning into yours, and then if you have a team, how they roll this out. Secondarily, it's inviting you into your own vulnerability around this, right? A community will never follow. A community will follow a leader as long as only as far as a leader is willing to go herself. And so what I mean by that is when we choose in our own stories to share our own vulnerabilities, then it models and it reflects that back to them that it's okay. So step one in developing out a community is to say, oh my gosh, here's where I was at one point. Or, man, when I heard this story, this is how it made me feel. Like, and you could bring up a story of somebody that maybe, that really did make an impact on you authentically, and share from that perspective. What's going to happen then over time is that your community is going to be looking at, right now, their communities like this. Most of our communities are like this. And I'll be honest, mine, right? My Grow and Monetize people are oftentimes first, let's see if this is for real, but they're like this, I don't know if you can see me, but for those who are listening, my arms are crossed, my head's kind of back, I'm kind of skeptical, and that is how we come into all of our communities, is a little bit, closed off. And so if you were to share with me, okay, Maruxa, Nancy, Janet, Christina, Roz, this is my story, and here's why. Here's why this matters so much to me. And then over time, I get to know you even more, because on lives and through your written posts and through podcasts that you're on, you're giving me another piece of your story. You're opening up another door. I'm now like, oh my gosh, you're building that know, like, and trust factor with me. So when I am ready to divulge at my time, hey, this is happening. I know that this is a space of safety here. Another piece to this too is if you do already have clients or customers that are open to sharing their stories, maybe you have again, I'm just getting to know your business, so I don't know if you have a podcast or other ways in which you're driving engagement to your brand and to your services. But let's say you have people that are sharing their stories. Invite them to be a part of your community and invite them to share their stories there. So it's what I call tilling the soil, right? So tilling the soil in Facebook oftentimes means you have to put the nutrients in first, right? You have to do the work at the beginning. The hardest time of Facebook group is the beginning, okay? Because you're doing a lot of work to nurture and nurture and nurture, and you're you're tilling the soil. So if there are people already in your space that are willing to jump in and say, let me be some of those first people who are posting outside of UW, doing all the posting, then yes, that, like, invite them into that. Maybe even, in one of the things that we've done in the past is we've given them access to certain services or programs, or a discount for certain services or programs, in order to get our group to a place where it is starting to take a life of its own beyond. Yeah.
And
so, we incentivize that, to support the larger group in general.
So this is also good. Deborah, thank you for asking the question. And I did mute you. There was some feedback coming from your line, which is why you ended up going on mute. So I hope you understand that. Great suggestions. And many people deal with it. If it's a grief society or a divorce or even weight loss, addictions, like there's all different kinds of communities where people are going to be reluctant to share. And that's why the strategies you suggested for creating that safe space will be so helpful. We're coming up on the top of the hour. I can't believe how fast this went. Please, everybody, go and grab Maruxa's free gift at createsellimpact.com/WPN. And I have we have a couple more questions to do. I want to go ahead and bring on Chris, who asked, do you follow the win-win-win formula on your personal page as well?
Great question. So yes, and maybe not. So again, it depends on your vision. So again, going back, and I know I literally could spend Nancy, you've seen me spend a whole hour on just vision. So when you're developing out your personal page, the way in which I look at so there's multiple places, right, where we can spend time on Facebook. You can spend time on your business page, you can spend time in your personal profile, or you can spend time in your group, right? So for me, you have to make that, I always believe you choose and discern how you want to utilize each of those experiences to then build and bring people back into the community. The community becomes a place where intimacy gets formed, intimate, I say that not in a sexual term, but more in a way of creating that vulnerability.
Closeness.
And yes, closeness. That's a nice way of saying it too. So I'm bringing that into that space and in that way. Whereas in my personal page will be for, definitely sharing aspects of the win-win-wink. I'll utilize content that I've designed for win-win-wink in my personal page, but it won't necessarily be the same exact conversation that I'm having in that close space and in those close quarters experience. And then finally, in your business page, if that's also part of the question as well, I always see that as more of like a marketing tool. So the marketing tool that is used in the business page, it's front facing, right? So it's not behind closed quarters. It's not in the circle of your group. It's more front facing, where you can just show that you're active, you're here, you're still post pandemic, still around. People are looking for that from your personal page, and then we use that to then bring people back into our Facebook group for more deeper conversation ongoing.
Chris, your line is open. Would you like to have a follow-up on that question, or did that get?
Yes, I appreciate that very, very much. Great information. I have a couple private groups. So and I love the formula, because I was doing a calendar before, but I love that win-win-win-wink. The K, I guess what I would say that, because I'm trying to get the people in my private group to engage. I get engagement on my personal page, but I feel like, okay, is this just about me giving you information? Can somebody at least respond that I know they read it because I see it, So using to invite more people, use that formula within the private, but to get more people into my group, I think the K can engage them to come to this group where they might feel more comfortable talking.
Correct. Yep, cool. Exactly. So that's typically what your K would be in your front-facing profile. So your personal profile and your business profile.
You're
correct.
Awesome.
Now, just one more thing on the business page, and the reason I really love groups is, again, remember, Mark Zuckerberg told me through his team that this is going to be their focus for the next 15 years.
Mhm.
And groups are getting all the algorithm love. Facebook business pages takes a lot more and typically more money to get people
Advertising.
engaged with
Yeah.
your, yes.
Right.
They're
And
looking for advertising on that front.
just look at the commercials on television. Facebook did commercials about groups. I noticed it about 2 years ago. I was like, would you look at that?
Yes, exactly.
That's
I'm
where
telling you, this is where it's going to be.
beautiful.
And it still is. Yeah.
It's good. All right, Chris, was that helpful for you?
It was wonderful. So in order to get in touch with you again, because I've done all the stuff to get into your groups, but to make contact with you, we do it through your group or through your email or through your website.
Yeah. Great question. So best way would be definitely go through the community. I'm in my community every day, all the time. So definitely feel free to connect there. And then from there we can see where we go, right? Like we can see if you want to do additional services or get some more support from me. But yeah, I'd love for you to be part of the community. It'd be so fun to get to know you there.
Thank you. Good job, Nancy. Thanks.
Thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure and my purpose. And we do have some more questions. So we're out of time today. Here's what I'm going to recommend. Go ahead and go to createsellimpact.com/WPN. And once you submit your information, you'll get access to the Facebook group as well as the 300 content prompts. And then post your questions inside of her Facebook group. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
Look how this works.
Yes.
And she's
Yes.
amazing. So if we were live, you would be getting a standing ovation. So I'll give you a sitting ovation, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome.
Wonderful.
You delighted and amazed our community today. So I appreciate you greatly. And let me just say, I appreciate all of you out there too. Women's Prosperity Network is committed to doing whatever we can, bringing you the resources, tools, and spirit so that you can get out there and make a bigger difference and a bigger impact, because I envision a world where people get along, where that heartbeat to heartbeat is happening more consistently. We recognize each other's value. And quite frankly, I can't do it by myself. So we need you. So let's get out there and connect heartbeat to heartbeat. If you are not a member of our community and you didn't grab your free profile or the dollar trial, what are you waiting for? Join us. We'll see you next week for another wonderful wow. Bye, Maruxa. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Nancy. Bye, everyone.